Hey, what's up, Superfans? PJ here, and I've got for you a 2012 Major League Baseball season preview. Just a few predictions and some insight into the upcoming season. I hope you're as excited as I am, because I am pretty pumped, as always, for the baseball season. Alright, first off, I'm going to give you just a play-by-play of my predictions for division winners, and I'll start with the AL West. I like the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. They're a very talented team, especially with the addition of Albert Pujols. And I love their manager, Mike Scioscia. He's a great leader. He was a former catcher, so he knows how to manage a team. And that's why he's always in the running for Manager of the Year. They also have great starters in Jared Weaver and Dan Herron. Very impressive, both of them. And that team should come away with the AL West, although the Texas Rangers will be in a close second and take one of the 4 wild card spots now this year. The Rangers really haven't changed much since their 2 World Series losing teams the past 2 seasons. So they'll certainly be playing with a chip on their shoulder, out for some serious blood after losing the last 2 World Series. And the rest of the division really isn't worth mentioning. Some pretty subpar teams there. The Astros are the newest addition to the division. They came over from the NL Central, and they weren't any good in the NL Central, which is a very weak division and has gotten even weaker. So they certainly will not make any noise in the AL West, which is just a very stacked division at the top, especially with the Angels' improvements. And the Rangers are still stacked as they've been for the past few years. Moving on to the AL Central, I like the Tigers. They took the division last year. Really not a whole lot of competition for them. The Twins always manage to stay afloat somehow, but I think the Tigers, with Verlander, 25 wins last year, just filthy, outstanding starting pitcher, maybe the best in the game. Although I do expect him to drop off a little bit this year just because last season was so outstanding. I believe he will still have a great year and help lead that team to a division title. The other team I'm going to mention here is the Chicago White Sox, hometown team. Very low expectations this year, which could actually be a good thing because last year I know all you Sox fans had very big expectations, and it was a hugely disappointing year. Adam Dunn hit well below the Mendoza line all season, and that was only the start of all their problems. So, and that was the end of Ozzy's era in Chicago. But the rest of the division really not worth mentioning. The Indians and the Royals probably not going to make much noise, although the Indians were very hot to start the season last year. I would not expect that to happen again this season. Next we have the AL East. And I gotta tell you, no surprise here, I like the New York Yankees. I love the addition of Michael Pineda from the Seattle Mariners. I think he'll have his struggles in that ballpark, but I still think from what I saw from him in Seattle last season that he's an amazing talent. We'll see how he handles New York, but he will certainly be a key for them, but they have so much talent and such a high payroll that they have numerous guys that can step up. Another key for them is the health of Alex Rodriguez, and obviously if he can stay healthy, he's a huge contributor in that lineup. But when he does go down, and he probably will spend some time on the DL this year, people like Cano need to step up. Robinson Cano at second base. Curtis Granderson needs to have another big year. But I expect all these things to happen. CC Sabathia just lights out much of the time. And I expect the Yankees to take the division with the Red Sox close behind. I really like the Red Sox chances this year. I love the managerial acquisition with Bobby Valentine now. I think he did some great analysis work with ESPN the past couple years, and he spent some time coaching in Japan. And I think he's a perfect fit in Boston, and I think he'll manage all that talent very well. And I think he will kind of drown out all the drama that's been taking place with the whole alcohol in the clubhouse fiasco that took place this offseason. Apparently, Red Sox players were actually drinking during games. So I think Bobby V will handle that just fine, and the Red Sox will be playing with a chip on their shoulder all season, and they're going to go far this year. And then you got the Tampa Bay Rays, always a fun team to watch. Joe Maddon's one of my favorite managers in the league, and I think he's one of the best in the game. And I love what the Rays did last year at the end of the season, and I think a lot of people were rooting for them just because they're such an exciting team and a lot of likable people on that team. Joe Maddon's one of the best managers in the game. Really keeps that clubhouse loose and really knows how to manage all that talent they got there. David Price, great young pitcher. I expect him to have a huge year. Matt Joyce had a huge hot streak last year. If he can somehow sustain that over the course of a season, he could really contribute to that team. And you gotta love the 5-tool player, B.J. Upton. He's outstanding. And then you have the unlucky duo there at the bottom, and the Jays and the Orioles. They just lose by default. The Jays are a solid team that really put on some entertaining games. When those powerhouses like the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Rays, when they come into that Rogers Center with that fast turf and those favorable dimensions for the hitters, there's some score fests in that park, and that's one of the reasons I like the Jays being in that division, although I'm sure they don't like it because they never really even have a chance of winning that division, which really hurts their chances of making the playoffs. And let's head over to the National League. In the West, I like the Giants this year. They missed out on the playoffs last season after winning the World Series 2 seasons ago. And I think they get back to it this season with the leadership of Buster Posey, who I expect to be healthy all season. His manager, Bruce Bochy, has specifically instructed him not to block the plate on potential collisions at the plate. And I gotta tell you, I think it's a smart move long term, because it doesn't make sense to sacrifice one of your best players and one of your best team leaders on a single play at the plate that will only end up costing you one run in one game of a 162 game season, and that cannot possibly be worth the risk of losing the heart and soul of your team for the entire season. That's why I like Bochy's decision to keep him out of harm's way and not block the plate. But there's even more to the Giants than that. They just find a way to win games. They call it torture out there in San Francisco because it's so stressful for the fans to watch their team try to close out games. Brian Wilson's a great closer, but man, he makes it interesting a lot, and I can't help but wonder if he's kind of past his prime as far as pitching goes. He kind of became such a celebrity there. I feel like maybe he's lost his focus a little bit, but he's always entertaining, and I gotta tell you, I like the guy personally. The rest of the AL West isn't bad. The Arizona Diamondbacks played great last year, and I expect them to compete for that division as well, but not quite make it. The Rockies, their success depends on the health and performance of Troy Tulowitzki at shortstop and Carlos Gonzalez out there in center field or left field, wherever they may have him at the time. But yeah, that team has a habit of getting hot late, but if they don't have that hot streak late in the season, they're really not going to make the playoffs. Then we have the LA Dodgers. Just too much drama surrounding that team with the ownership issues. And ever since that beating that took place of the Giants fan at Dodger Stadium after the Dodgers-Giants game, just kind of a sour taste in my mouth about that whole team. And they really don't have a whole lot of team chemistry. Obviously, Matt Kemp is one of the best players in the game. Andre Ethier is a great hitter. He has some health issues. Clayton Kershaw is one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. He won the Cy Young last year in the NL, but I just don't feel like there's any chemistry between those guys, and I don't feel like they're going to succeed as a team. And the Padres just really don't have the payroll or the fan base or anything that it would take to succeed, so don't expect them to get anywhere. Moving on to the NL Central. I have the Cincinnati Reds taking it pretty much by default. I mean, they're a good team, but this is more of a testament to how bad the other teams in the division are, more so than how good the Reds are. I don't believe the Reds can compete in the playoffs. I think they're kind of a first-round exit automatically. Obviously, Joey Votto, unbelievable hitter, is going to put up ridiculous numbers in that tiny Great American ballpark. Never really liked Dusty Baker as a manager. I think he messes with the lineup too often. You never know who he's going to start, and his own players probably don't even know who's going to start on a given day. So, but he'll keep chewing that toothpick all the way to the playoffs, just because everyone in the division is so weak. The Cubs, I think they're going to be much improved with the Theo Epstein acquisition and the managerial change. I think they're going to be much better, but I still don't think they're going to compete. You gotta love Starlin Castro, just an amazing young talent. You gotta love that they finally got rid of Aramis Ramirez. And their X factor is Soriano. He needs to especially play better defense, and he needs to really take on a leadership role with that team. And he needs to hit more consistently. And I think he could really help that team win. But just not really a reliable guy. I wouldn't count on him if you're a Cubs fan. Brewers and Pirates. The big thing with the Brewers is Ryan Braun. A lot of drama with him. He just lost his protection in Prince Fielder, who hit behind him for the past several years. And the performance-enhancing drug scandal that's been going on with him. I don't know what kind of year he's going to have. Obviously, he's going to put up his numbers. But he needs to stay healthy, and even then, he can't carry that team on his shoulders by himself. And the Pirates, the biggest bright spot for that team, I think, is Neil Walker. Stud second baseman, really gets better every year. He's been in the league, I think, 2 seasons now. I think this will be his 3rd, and I really expect him to put up some big numbers this year. Maybe 20 home runs and close to 100 runs driven in and 100 scored. Maybe hitting about 280 or so watch out for him. NL East, despite the injuries of Ryan Howard and Chase Utley. Howard's out for the year, and no one's really sure what Utley's deal is. I still like the Phillies. It's all about starting pitching. Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, Roy Oswalt, Cole Hamels. I mean, all these guys have been number one starters at some point in their career, and that rotation is just filthy, and that'll take them to a division title as long as those guys are still pitching together. I mean, and Charlie Manuel knows how to manage a team even with injuries. He's proven that time and time again. The Atlanta Braves, love that team this year. This will be Chipper Jones' final season. He announced his retirement, so I believe that team's really going to step it up this year, not just for Chipper, but just because they're a good team who wants to win, and they have some young guys who have begun the maturation process. Jason Hayward, Martin Prado, these guys have some experience under their belt now, and I think the Braves are going places this year. And the Miami Marlins, probably the most exciting team in baseball this year. I'm going to discuss them in detail in a couple minutes, but I have them in third in the division. I don't believe they're going to make the playoffs, but I do think they're going to be pretty good. And I'll talk about that later.